Fed Chairman Jerome Powell is speaking right now, and a couple of interesting items that we thought we'd share with you. He's looking at the U.S. economy continue to grow at a solid pace. He says that bank consolidation has hurt credit access, financial services in some rural places. But by and large, he's satisfied with the strength of the consumer and the strength of the underlying economy. Now, we're following that very closely because this is on the heels of a Gallup survey that was out overnight that showed nearly 7 out of 10 Americans expect their financial situation to improve over the next year. Tatik Digital Chairman Dave Maney. Dave, what do you make of that? What the Fed Chairman is saying is something that a lot of folks are sharing. He's upbeat, they're upbeat.
Yeah, this Gallup survey is about as good of a gut-level economic indicator, meaning as positive a gut-level indicator as you could imagine. When you think about how decisions get made in the economy which affect the future economy, which is, am I going to buy a new house? Am I going to fix up my kitchen? Am I going to buy a car? Am I going to spend the money to go get a master's degree? It is all based on a gut level of consumer confidence. Do I feel secure? And what this survey says at the highest level since 1998 is that Americans are feeling very financially confident right now. And that is, boy, if you're sitting in the White House right now, that's literally the best news you could get.
Now, normally then you'd think, just at the time when you get this idea that the economy could be softening and all that, the linchpin to keep that going is the consumer, right? And if the consumer is saying this, then what do we believe? History that says usually at this point things start petering out, or a consumer who's telling you, well, I'm not petering out?
That's hard to say. There's two things I think at work. One is I think it was definitely not a bad thing to have the air come a bit out of the market bubble, right? Like that kind of seems to have set the stage for a little bit of a smoothing there. The flip side of it is, as you and I have been talking about for 10 years, there's an internet-driven economic revolution going on that is breaking a lot of the rules. And I think what's so interesting about this is if you're seeing that creative destruction in the economy that we know is the kind of the core essence of capitalism, and if the internet's making that happen really quickly, and amidst all of that creative destruction, consumers are still saying, I'm feeling good. Two-thirds of them, more than two-thirds of them are saying, I'm feeling pretty good that next year is going to be better than this year. That's a remarkable thing, and it does not feel bubble-ish to me.
All right, let's take a look at the Dow's gains today. Now, we're told with this 322-point run-up thus far, it's built on optimism that we're going to avoid a government shutdown because neither Democrats or Republicans are satisfied with the deal, but ultimately it's better than no deal, and that the president, despite his misgivings and problems with it, will sign off on it. I know it's just conjecture on my part. What if he doesn't? What if he takes a look at this and says, I can't? Then what? I
do think as much as ever, his prospects going forward are going to rest on where is the economy at, in effect, 12 and 14 and 16 months from now. So the one thing I would say is if you thought he was spoiling for a fight, I could imagine that now is the time I'd want to have it. But I could also see him saying, I'm going to take sort of half a loaf and walk away. I do think that he is the most fundamentally anti-administrative state president we've had since Ronald Reagan. And I think he will take every opportunity to keep pushing back against it. And I got to tell you, that's a very strong thing for the broad economy. So everybody's optimism, in my opinion, is pretty well justified right now.
All right, on the China thing, the president was optimistic. That meeting ultimately with Xi Jinping might be pushed back. So it looks like the tariffs will go into effect on those additional $200 billion worth of Chinese goods. So there will be some consumer sting from that. Are you worried about that?
I don't think it's a giant drag, and I also think that's one that hinges fundamentally off the president's kind of psychology on where he thinks he stands. I do believe he has more control over those negotiations than almost any other negotiations that are going on or any other uncertainty around his administration. And so I think that's the one that if Larry Kudlow walks in one day and says, I think we got a problem here, Chief, let's take what we got and go home, I think he would. So that one doesn't cause me as much agita.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Dave. Good seeing you again.